Belal versus Luque. Here's what happened. Now, guys, when you go into a fight and you come out the other end, it's darn near blasphemy. It's darn near poor sportsmanship to say the better fighter didn't win. It's for sure rude, but I'm not convinced after what I saw that Luque doesn't have more tools. I think he does. I think that Belal brought a lot less weapons, but he brought better weapons. He really did. And I hate the word confidence. I work with kids. I tell them all the time, you're going to be told by your father, you're going to be told by every coach that you meet, you got to have confidence. You don't need anything like that. Throw confidence out. You do not have to walk out there like a bully knowing I can win. Sometimes you're going to question it, and sometimes you're going to be pretty sure you're not. When they call your name, you make that walk. Think about, and I'm a wrestling coach, think about scoring points, not beating the opponent. In an MMA mindset, psychologically, you want the athlete focused on the performance and not the outcome. Don't even think about who's going to win this. Don't even start doing that math. Am I in the positions I need to be in? Am I working? Are my feet moving? Are my hands moving? Is my chin down? Just these little things. Let them add up over the course of the evening. You'll be in a lot better spot. I'm right. I stand by that. Some jerk every 10 years repackages confidence and self-belief, puts it in a book and sells it on Amazon. I'm right about that. In a broad stroke, there are guys who can believe so much that they can fight outside of their abilities. And I have been begging you guys, for 1 year, I've been pleading with you. Make sure you're watching what Belal's doing. There's something to be said for momentum. I said those exact words a week ago. I go read the comments. I read them all the time. Every single one that gets posted there. And a lot of people push back and said, how can you say that Muhammad has the momentum? Look at what Luque's done and who he's done it with and the way that he's finishing his fights. Look, I don't dispute that at all. Luque is awesome. I'm a believer. I also believe that he had more weapons and was a little bit sharper in this fight. Belal had better ones. And we need reminded of this, guys. We really do need reminded. I can even go back a week ago to Aljo versus Jon. And one of the things that I brought to you guys is that Aljo, on the back of Jon, is the single greatest performance within that position that the sport has ever seen. But we need reminded as fans, right? Like if you're fighting, it's always a good thing if you're facing your opponent and he's facing away. Can we agree on that? And since they set that octagon up in 1993, there are not very many things that still exist to this day, including the rules, including the rounds, including the weight classes, including the genders. You take a guy down and you keep him there, good things happen. That is the one constant from 93 to today. And I do think that the way Belal fought, managing range, I'm not sure he had better stand-up. He had good stand-up. I'm not sure it was better. I will definitely tell you it was not more powerful than Luque. The threat that Luque offered on his feet was more powerful, but that created an urgency within Belal. Belal believes in Belal. I hate the word confidence because it's a bunch of crap and you can't control it. You tell a young athlete, believe in yourself. Expect victory. Those are just words. How? How? If that was possible to have any emotion, guys, I'd just be happy all the time, wouldn't you? I wouldn't be pursuing or chasing anything. I would just flip the switch inside that made me happy all the time, and so would you. But confidence is the same thing. How do you do that? How do you bottle that up? How do you take it with you? But when you see it, you know it, and Belal's got it. That's what I'm speaking to with momentum. Nobody's name is bigger today than it was 12 months ago than Belal Muhammad. Not to mention he does everything right. Every fighter has one commodity, one monetizable commodity, which is the performance. Well, again, that's a broad stroke. There's some guys like Belal. There's some guys like McGregor. There's some guys that offer something besides the performance. And I'm watching Belal talking himself into these things. Look, we learned a lot about Belal. And I give an assessment of Belal's fight with Demian Maia. He did not like it. He did not like it, but it was a confusing fight. It really was. I stand by it. Belal spent a lot of time up against the cage with Maia's leg. But now you're at a wash, and you have to ask yourself a philosophical question. Does Belal have a hold of Maia? Therefore, he's in a better position because they're frozen here. Or does Maia have Belal's hands? Because Belal's busy. I mean, it's a very fair question. I don't know how the judges were going to look at it. He did not like that. He thought that I sounded silly saying that. He's probably going to think I sound silly coming out the back end of his fight saying I'm not sure if he's as skilled as Luque after he got his hand raised. But it's a fair assessment. I'm telling you, I'm watching this guy closer than anybody else is watching him. I talk about learning things about Belal. What many of you don't know, including right now, I don't think you knew this going into this fight. I don't think you knew this with the build-up of a fight. I'm not sure you know now. That was a rematch. Are you aware that Luque knocked Belal out? So it's a very big deal. The fact that Belal could go in there, yes, he had an urgency to those takedowns, but he also understood I got to punch my way into range, and he did. Then you talk about the championship rounds. Belal was only scheduled for championship rounds one time. It was against Leon. It didn't get there. Remember the eye poke? We didn't know how he was going to do in 20 minutes in. Nobody does. No athlete knows. The 5-round club is a very rare club. There are multiple champions of the world, that have never entered the 5-round club. It's that rare. It's that hard to do, but he passed. He looked great. He was coming on. And then when I talk about the commodity that he has, and one reason that his name has gotten out there, he finishes up the night the right way. He calls out 2 guys. He called out 2 guys, and this really made me think, because he could get both of those fights. He called out Chimaev. He called out Covington. That's strategic. It's another reason I'm behind the movement of Muhammad. He thinks about his own career. He thinks before he speaks. He has things planned. I like a strategy. If you believe for 1 second that you, the fighter, is not a brand and is not a business, you are wrong. And if you believe that you can get anywhere within business without a strategy, you are also wrong. I don't think that Covington versus Chimaev is done. Not only do I not think it's done, I don't think it's began. I don't think Colby knew anything about that until it was said on Pat McAfee. I don't think that's my opinion. I don't have evidence to that. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if you are trying to preserve that fight, it's very hard to get Dana off of an idea once he's on it. He's very good at getting that fight to the ring. We'll worry about everything. We'll deal with it. Get the fight to the ring. It is a fundamental principle of Dana White's psychology. Get the fight in the ring. We'll talk about everything. We'll work. Get the fight in the ring. It's important. The great promoters will do that, but I don't think this one's done. So now you have a question of, well, who's holding it up? Do you truly care if you're going in this feature spot on ABC, what half of that fight remains? Do you care? You got to start with that question, because if you don't, okay, now we got a real simple question. Would you rather see Belal versus Chimaev, because they both will do it, for sure? Would you rather see Belal versus Colby, because they will both do it, for sure? Or do you say to hell with that idea and you just get Colby and Chimaev in there? I'm just saying that there's room for discussion. And the fact that that fight is not done, in fact, I don't even think it started, and now Belal all of a sudden has inserted himself. Belal knows what I know. He knows Colby can be tough to work with. He knows Colby needs certain things, that you got to talk to Colby in a certain way. He understands that. He also knows Colby is an animal. If you back him in the corner and you insult him the right way, you're going to be facing Colby Covington, but that appears to be what he wants. Okay. What do we care? A guy that wins in a main event gets to stay in a main event unless something catastrophic happens. There is nowhere to go in this sport above main event. You can do a main event title fight. I understand those things. But it's a big deal because you're fighting for everything. It's all chips are in. I want something good to happen to Luque. I believe in Luque more now than I did before he lost that fight. You ready for that? And I also like him more now than before he lost the fight because he offered no excuse. He understood exactly what happened. Look, I was doing great. Everything was fine. He got me down and kept me there a little bit. You have to know what the problem is. If you start blaming coaches, you start blaming teammates, you start blaming anything other than what specifically the problem was, you can't fix it. So now Luque learns something. He gets to go fix the problem. Belal gets a victory. He gets to go into the next fight, which he's trying to set up between Chimaev or Covington, and I personally love it.